Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Dunk, and this is the update video for what I'm going to call build 87 of Terraformacraft Plus. So in this build, if you have been keeping up with my YouTube series, you might know some of the things that are going to be in it. There are 5 new trees that are introduced here, and I have grown them here. The first one is the Gaff tree. It will generate in the Asia region in dry areas. It'll also be able to spawn on sand in the desert. Next, this is the laurel tree. So this will generate in tropical and subtropical European regions. Then we have Maho, and Maho will generate in tropical Americas regions. Then we have the Joshua tree, which will generate in arid regions in the Americas. And finally, we have the yew tree, which will generate in sort of mid-temperate climates. Oh, it's lost its dirt. Let's add some dirt back. I just spawned these in with saplings. Anyway, so mid-temperate regions in Europe, Asia, and cooler regions in Africa. Cooler areas in Africa, I should say. So those are the 5 new trees. We'll look at, we guess we should really look at the types of wood, or like the color of the wood. So gaff wood is gray. We don't really have like a gray color wood, so that is what gaff will do. So like we can just place these around. You guys can get a look at what that's like. So gray wood for the gaff tree. The laurel tree has kind of like just like a very kind of neutral wood. There's a bit of like a secondary tone mixed in with it. Kind of like a little bit of an orangier thing going on. That's laurel. Maho is blue. It's like this is pretty blue. In real life, it's not quite this blue, but it is considered like one of the only, or maybe the only, blue wood in the world. I think it's like the national tree of Jamaica. Anyway, that's Maho. Joshua, I don't think it's actually technically a type of tree. It's like a yucca or something. But I mean, it's functionally close enough. So this is the color of Joshua wood. It's kind of got a desaturated kind of reddish color, reddish brown. And then we have yew. So yew actually kind of looks a little bit like laurel, but the difference, like the variation in color, is a bit stronger. It's kind of got like an orangey or yellowier look to it, where this is kind of, I don't know, a little paler. You can get a closer look at the bark here. In terms of generation, the yew tree will always generate with at least like a thick trunk, and sometimes it can have like a double wide thick trunk. So it'll never generate with like a skinnier trunk like that. The other trees, however, will not generate with thick logs. You are not able to obtain thick logs for these types of woods. One thing you might have noticed is that I've added these kind of little elbows to branches. So when a tree generates a branch, and even at like the terminal parts, it'll generate, or it'll render with these little elbows, which are the bark texture to prevent like the inner texture of the wood peeking out. Okay, so let us continue with the other features that are included in this update. So we are kind of getting a newish biome. Rivers will generate completely differently again, but in a way that I think is a little better this time. So we have, and you may not be able to tell, but right here we're in an estuary, and that's just a new biome that whenever a river comes in contact with like salt water, it'll generate this estuary here, just so you don't have like that fresh water like going through the area. So another thing is that the world will try to spawn you on a riverbank when it can. So where I spawned here, the fact that there's an estuary right there is not a coincidence. It tried to spawn me as close to a river as it could. It didn't really give me, as far as I can tell, much fresh water here, but that was, you know, and there's probably just like a single block of river that it found and decided that was good enough. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm planning to make rivers a little more important in the future, so that is kind of why that's done. Um, I also apologize for this update coming out so late, because there's like a major fix to crop growth in this update, which um, kind of was preventing crops from really working properly before. So that's out now. There's also a few other bug fixes. Water skins, you can drink them and they won't jump around your inventory. You can make something out of like you can nap something while looking at a road. Probably a couple of, there's some things with like you can put water in and out of a water skin into a barrel more easily now. There are a few other features though, and you may have noticed some of these items on the hotbar here. A couple of them have already existed, like the brass tube that was implemented a while ago. So far, has only been used to make bugle and needles. Those have been around for a while. But let's actually get some planks. Spell it correctly. I'm gonna go into debug mode so that I don't die when we exit. When we exit creative mode. So let's just make a crafting grid. So we got a couple new things. So we have these brass discs. So brass discs are something that you can make on an anvil from a brass sheet. You get 8 discs per sheet. We're actually going to need another item in a sec, but we'll talk about the couple things you can do with them. In fact, let's go back to creative mode because I want to get a chisel. Oh, it's raining. Cool. So let us start with, we have this item. This is a dial. Currently doesn't have a use. I am going to implement some uses. At some point, I plan to have some pipes and things. Maybe this could be used for like water pressure. It doesn't have a use on its own, so this item itself is not useful. We're going to use it in a sec though. So that's one thing you could do. So there was a brass disc, a pane of glass, and an iron needle. If we, however, put the iron needle in there with a piece of magnetite, and it doesn't matter what kind of magnetite, it could be a nugget, could be any quality. We'll get a magnetized needle from that. And if we did that same recipe we just did before, instead we get a brass compass. So this is virtually the same as the vanilla compass, except that there's no redstone involved, and it's made of brass instead of iron, although you still need the iron needle. So you can't really make it before you're in the Iron Age. It just requires a little less iron than previously it did. And also, you don't have to be holding it to have the region display. So I don't know if you noticed, on the left corner of the screen over here, when it's on my hotbar, the region is displayed. And that is independent, or they're not independent. That's, they don't have to be holding it in your hand for that to work. I think that makes it a little more useful. You could just be, exploring, have it on your hotbar. I mean, you can still see it. It's, it's pointing towards, I believe it just points towards like your spawn point, just like a vanilla compass. Because I figured pointing north wouldn't be that useful. So there's that. We made this dial earlier, but if we take this brass disc and a chisel, we can see brass clockwork gear, 0 teeth. And this is kind of tedious, and you may actually notice if we take that off and just hold it in our hand. It's kind of small, but we have been cutting teeth into this thing. And you're going to have to cut a lot of teeth into this thing. And it's kind of tedious. Hopefully, I decided to make it tedious because, in real life, it really is that bad. You'd be using a file, not a chisel in real life, but I didn't really want to add a new tool just for this. I may add a file in the future, but, and hopefully you won't really be trying to make too many of these. But okay, so that's done. We have 32 teeth on it. Put our dial. Oop, we need one more item. We need some redstone. So let's go back. So we put our clockwork gear, our dial, and some redstone. It doesn't really matter how you do it. You just got to combine those 3 items. We get a clock. So that said brass 12-hour clock. So if you hold it in your hand, you can see that it will, you could look at it to see what the time is. If it's on your hotbar, it'll tell you the time on the left side of your screen over there. So take it up, there it goes. So it'll just constantly tell you the time. And so it says 12-hour clock, so I can put it in there. It'll turn into a 24-hour clock. So it'll display the time if that is what your preferred way of looking at it is. If we had an item frame, let's find a nice place to throw this. So you can just put it on the item frame. And I did show a video of this a while ago, but that is how that works. So it's got a little bit of like redstone glowing. You can see the gear moving. And it is accurate. It only has one hand. But because like an hour is like what? 50 seconds? So I figured it would just be kind of silly to have a minute hand. It would just spin around so quickly. And then we have a couple other items here. So let's go back into survival mode. So unfinished brass sextant is what that says. You make that from brass on an anvil. I was wondering if I should make it like something you cast, but it's effort. I don't know. I just decided against it. So you are forging this on an anvil. So you take that, a tube, 2 sheets of glass, and you can make a brass sextant. To use the brass sextant, you need to have a clock, either 24-hour or 12-hour clock on your hotbar, and a compass on your hotbar. And when you have this, and you're out on the sea, and this will only work in deep ocean. So we'll just fly out here. I also want to turn off the rain and make it daytime. So we'll wait until, so it says our biome's currently ocean. We'll wait for that to go to deep ocean. We just gotta get farther away. Oh, I just saw it briefly. Deep ocean. Okay, so we're in deep ocean. We look at the sun, hold it up to our eye, and it'll tell us the nearest shore is northeast from us, which is that way. And look, and that is actually probably the nearest shore to us. It doesn't have a huge range because it's not super quick to be trying to figure out what the biomes are in nearby chunks. But if you're within like, I think I've put it like 500 blocks of a shore, it'll be able to tell you which direction is the closest to you. And I thought that'd be kind of handy if you're, going out in the water, like a boat or something. That'd be kind of cool if you could have this and it would just tell you. And like in real life, sextants are used for like figuring out your latitude and longitude. That's not super useful when you can press F3 and see what your coordinates are. But knowing where land is pretty important in terms of navigation. So I figured it'd be kind of cool to have a sextant and give it that ability. So that is what the sextant does. I'm calling this a new version because this changes river generation. So you may see like rivers start or stop if you are updating an existing world, and because it adds a couple new biomes. It's not going to break any worlds. It may make some of the terrain gen a little weird. And of course, there's 5 new types of trees. So that is quite different. So that is why I decided to make this a brand new version rather than just updating it or, putting like a, 86.3 or whatever. But I hope you guys enjoy this. I'm sorry it's taken so long to get this out. And I'm just glad that people have been keeping up with the series that I have going on. If you haven't been watching that, please give it a look. I do talk about ideas for future updates. I think people who have been watching that are a little, we're seeing this update coming. I actually said it was going to be coming out very soon in like today's episode. So please give that a look. Anyway, once again, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the support. Really appreciate it. And I'll see all y'all next time.